people think that they're working on churn, or they think that they're working on engagement and upsell. In fact, what you're working on is revenue. And you want to increase revenue by retaining the customers you have, acquiring new customers efficiently, and getting all of them ultimately to spend more with you and be more engaged with you over time.
Today, I'm thrilled to have Olly Downs, who's the SVP of Data, Analytics, and Machine Learning at BarkBox. Olly, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me.
Great. Maybe you can tell the listeners just a little bit about your background and what you do at Bark.
Yeah, I'm a PhD data scientist, machine learning by original background. I began my career at Microsoft Research too many years ago. Got to spin out their first IP Ventures company, which is the traffic company Inrix, and got addicted to the fact that you can use, just the right piece of science and statistics to enable and impact significant portions of a business. And so I really got addicted at first to that sort of ability to business enable new startups with data science and machine learning. I've actually done 9 startups. Took me through location-based services, the burgeoning world of ad tech, and then into MarTech with my last startup, which was AI marketing company Amplero. And since Amplero, I've had a fun time innovating in a few large enterprises, driving end-to-end, often consumer-focused analytics and machine learning applications at Zillow Group, Zulily, and now Bark.
That's great. For our listeners, Olly and I have known each other for several years. We bonded through our shared experience having built data-driven MarTech startups. While we had never met each other prior to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we actually have very, very similar backgrounds, including topics of our PhD dissertations from back in a previous era. So it's very interesting how things sort of came full circle for both of us. Both have sort of deep retail experiences as well, and a real passion around connecting data and next generation data applications, into marketing applications and into customer applications. And today, this is exactly what we'll be diving into on the show. And really, specifically, when you look at a next generation of machine learning, and everyone's talking about Chat GPT these days and deep learning and all sorts of really cutting edge stuff. Today we're going to be talking about taking a lot of the potential and really amazing algorithmic work that exists within the realms of machine learning and data science today, and connecting that into marketing applications and marketing outcomes. Everyone talks about using machine learning effectively, but so few people actually really do it well. And in my career, I don't think there's anyone I've met who's better than Olly at connecting A to B here. So with that, maybe we can sort of just talk about your background with these kinds of applications, and maybe talk a little bit about Amplero and sort of your general background around machine learning.
Yeah, I really, when I think about driving success in a machine learning application, there's sort of part of the challenge, I think, is being able to elegantly go end to end. It's actually quite easy to build data science and ML models now as a data scientist. If you have a static pool of data, it's very hard to turn that from that sort of static modeling exercise into a truly flowing set of data, a model operating dynamically, even if that's something operating in batch mode rather than like full real time, and monitoring whether it's still working well, how it's performing compared to how you thought it would perform when you developed it, and understanding when you need to update or refine that model. So there's sort of pieces all around like the core modeling exercise. Can I build a model that drives significant lift on a particular metric or objective? Those are still quite hard. The building that model is quite easy. So it's this sort of getting the infrastructure going around those models that continues to be hard in enterprises of all scales. One of the things we really learned with Amplero was we sort of started that business truly in a consultative manner. We went out to our target customer verticals. We actually oddly started that MarTech business with a telco vertical focus, which with hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done. However, those are pretty sophisticated businesses. And when you think about them globally, no matter what country they're in, they tend to be in the top 50 sort of businesses by scale in their local market. And so sort of quite heavy on data science sophistication, on marketing experimentation. And the things we learned were really that, one, it was hard to go end to end. Two, it was hard to go from a measurement of a marketing A/B test to what was the ongoing business impact of a personalized or segment targeted marketing, operationalized marketing campaign, for example, and show that you could sustain business performance over an extended period of time. And I would say that is one of the challenges, which is that in many cases, you're operating, particularly in MarTech, you're operating campaigns and you're trying to change and optimize them to the dynamics of your business faster than the economic outcomes might play out for your customers. When I think about that starting point, almost a decade ago now in telecom, we were thinking about prepaid mobile and then subscription mobile, where a purchase decision at best gets made on a monthly basis in prepaid mobile. Similarly, today at Bark, right, we're in the core of our business is a monthly subscription or commitment style business. And so, when you think about acting on an opportunity with a given consumer, particularly if it involves discounting or promotions, right, the net effect of that discount or promotion is going to play out for you 2 or 3 months ahead, because you might change a near term, perhaps a conversion signal for this month, but the economics of that conversion playing out relative to that promotion might take 2 or 3 months to fully emerge.
Yeah, and I think it's an example that I always love to cite, and we definitely talked about this on the show before, and certainly at Simon Data we always talk with our customers about this. Like Black Friday now was maybe a little over 2 months ago. Black Friday tactics are very effective in getting folks in the door to complete a purchase. But are you actually building that brand affinity? And this is a basic sort of analytical question in looking beyond the last click of attribution. And it's sort of a great example. And then the other thing though that you said, Olly, that I think is a perspective that you and I share, but I think is a perspective that a lot of folks don't really appreciate, is the challenge around machine learning today. While Chat GPT and self-driving cars are doing some cool stuff, in so many business applications, the challenge isn't actually the quality of the algorithms. It's how the algorithms are used and if they're used effectively in practice. And you brought up a couple of points that maybe we can touch on, and we will touch on over the next 10, 15 minutes here. But really asking, what are the business outcomes? And do you have enough time to measure the effectiveness of the algorithm relative to really measuring consumer behavior? And ultimately, while your consumers do purchase and buy things, many customer-centric brands are much more focused around building a relationship and optimizing for LTV, as opposed to trying to use conversion rates by a point at the expense of having customers view you as a coupon shop. Of course, there are also challenges with just the pure operations. How do you ship data from A to B? How do you make sure all the considerations around rebuilding the models and batch or real time? And then there's one of aligning, what you said, the objective function. And the biggest problem with so much machine learning is that you're really solving the wrong problem. I always like to use an example. You give a data scientist a problem to identify churn, and they'll come back 3 weeks later and say 14.2% of your customers, you might as well just kiss them goodbye. And they'll have a very specific model. When in reality the goal is how do we identify which customers in the base are at risk of churning, and how do you prevent it? Which is a very different problem if you sort of think through it. So that's sort of I think that that summary that you just gave and the overview certainly aligns with topics that we've talked about previously in the show. And Olly, maybe we can transition into BarkBox and Bark more broadly. I have a relatively large lab at home who loves to get her treats every single month. And some of our listeners might be asking, where does machine learning play a role in the Bark product lineup, Bark value proposition, and Bark customer engagement and experiences?
Well, we have a very interesting feedback loop from our customers. And of course, we're really playing to two customers at the same time, which is we're playing to the human customer, right? Who actually, the dog parent who pays the bill for their pup. And we want them to be engaged and excited about the experience that we're going to create for them with their dog. At the same time, we're trying to address things that the dog likes, things that aren't going to cause wellness issues, right? Think about toys that break down and get swallowed and stuck. Think about treats and chews and food and the relationship with allergies and other health conditions, and things that are just totally fun and get played with by the dog. So we're actually sort of arbitrating this customer that's actually two customers at the same time. And the uniqueness we have, it's actually why one of the reasons I joined Bark originally is we actually have very, very high rates of customer feedback and engagement, because the dog is like a member of your family, and that's just been an increasing trend over time, that people's pets really are very much a primary component of their family rather than a secondary component. And so our rates of NPS survey response are very high relative to my experience in other consumer spaces, 20-30% sort of response rates. Similarly, we have a product score survey which allows our dog parents to rate every product that they get in the box. Our response rates there are really good, and from a machine learning opportunity perspective, not only are the response rates good, but the comment engagement is good. It's very common with sort of surveys to get, I checked the stars level or I checked the boxes, but I didn't provide you any rich semantic feedback. That isn't true for us. We get lots of comments and descriptions and information from our customers. And the key for us is taking that through the feedback loop, not just as sort of our customer experience operation from an engagement and marketing perspective, but also into our product design and development. We design all of our toys and our treat products internally, right? And we're largely vertically integrated and we have some manufacturing partners. But we're not like Chewy, where we're a marketplace for everything pets. We are very focused on the dog. We're very focused on creating unique products and experiences, and we really play that live and dynamic feedback we get from our customers and their dog into the toys and treats we develop and design.
Thanks for that, Olly. Some of our listeners may know, Bark has actually been a very long time Simon Data customer. And I remember probably almost 5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago now, Bark at one point both used to sell their own designed, manufactured and vertically integrated and sold products, the Donald Trump chew toy, all their completely over the top and ridiculous branded merchandise. And then they would also sell some items through through third-party producers. And when they actually did some analysis around engagement, they saw that the engagement and satisfaction with the vertically designed and vertically owned and your products were much, much higher. I always sort of thought that was sort of a prime example of being super thoughtful around data and insights relative to sort of the customer experience and really what set the brand apart.
Yeah, and also I think one of the things that in the tech sort of world we shy away from in terms of customer experience, Bark does not shy away from, in the sense that we're very happy to engage. Actually, we call them our happy team. Our customer service team is very keen to engage with our customers. And we actually have tested our way into that being a key component, actually, post customer conversion, actually having a welcome chat with our customers and suggesting that to them after they've checked out. It actually generates a lot of success for us and allows us to drive increased personalization even in the very first box that arrives at our customer's home. So it's really interesting. We've lent into human customer engagement as part of this sort of feedback loop for us. And it's, as you mentioned, it's driven our product innovation for sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. So maybe we can get into a bit more specific of brass tacks. What are some of the specific machine learning models and machine learning applications that leverage Bark specific data? And then how do you actually use them, in marketing use cases?
Yeah, in the marketing world, our sort of canonical use case is a recommendation use case. So in the run up to a customer's BarkBox being shipped to them, so during the month prior to the next BarkBox coming, we have a whole series of add-ons, often complementary to the forthcoming theme of the box that the customer is going to receive, that they can add to their box. We also, are very keen to introduce our customers to our broader product lines, our food, our dental, health and wellness products. And so we have a canonical sort of product recommendation capability that takes into account dog profile information, the things we've learned from our survey feedback, the things we know about allergies and compatibility, and also sort of that human customer's engagement with our recommendations and our e-commerce store over time. So that plays into sort of an upsell and cross-sell sort of play that we make. And that does have a significant impact on our top line revenue. And also because we offer sort of subscription upsells as part of that, it can play into our retention and long-term engagement of the customer base too. And that's something we operationalize in two ways. One, through our owned channel communication via Simon, and then also through our core platform and app dashboards. And then we're really, we've been taking a real deep dive into discovering our distinct customer profiles, not just from a sort of a metrics and economic perspective, but how the dog, we talked earlier about, how the dog is really a primary member of households today, if you have a dog, and how the dog plays a role in the lifestyle of that family, whether that's, just, the dog and me, or whether it's, a large family and where they live, and sort of how that fits in the lifestyle, and how we can improve the offerings that we make to those customers based upon how the dog plays a role in their lifestyle. That has been a really interesting and growing opportunity for us. And again, something for us to operationalize in all of the channels through which we acquire and engage customers.
Great. No, that makes a ton of sense. And I think certainly across the food and the dental hygiene, I know many dog owners just don't think about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
I remember when my wife and I got our first dog, she introduced me to the notion of dog dental hygiene. And I was like, I don't get it, but it's actually a real thing, and it's a real problem, but it requires real awareness.
Yeah, and so this sort of mixture of playful sort of engagement, if you think of the life of our toys and our treats and some of our wacky themes, but also sort of bringing some fun to some of those wellness things. My experience in that example with Bright, which is our dental product, is, either you're taking your dog to the vet for a $600 teeth cleaning visit, or you're going to try and brush their teeth, which if you've ever actually tried to do it, it just doesn't, that's a no-go. Across sort of 8 dogs I've owned in the last 15 years, it's never been an acceptable thing. And so having dental be a treat, but it goes beyond sort of just a chew, and there's a toothpaste component to it, and it's fun and the dog loves it, it sort of brings our humor and engagement to that experience, which sort of seems, off in the corner. Otherwise, you wouldn't think about it.
Yeah. Now, look, this is a great example where, it's a fundamentally hard education problem, yet it's also a foundationally massive opportunity. Yeah. So it's really, success, I'd imagine requires, a deep understanding of the customer at an analytical level. What's their predisposition to the brand? What have they purchased in the past? What kind of breed do they have? And all that information. And then coupling that, with educational content messaging across own channels and the website, putting that all together and really understanding where customers are in their journey. Because if you were to just try to shove this stuff down someone's throat for 40% off, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of the things that we learned early on with Amplero, and it's just as true in our business at Bark today, is that we were talking about metrics and ML. People think that they're working on churn, or they think that they're working on engagement and upsell. In fact, what you're working on is revenue. And you want to increase revenue by retaining the customers you have, acquiring new customers efficiently, and getting all of them ultimately to spend more with you and be more engaged with you over time. And you really need to design a compound metric that helps you jointly optimize and trade off between those different opportunities that you have to engage a given customer.
Yep. No, 100%. So maybe we can transition to sort of my last question. That's just the operations, the processes. How does the factory and the sausage making process actually work end to end?
Yeah. So for us, sort of some key components in our infrastructure. We have a multi-cloud infrastructure today. Our data warehouse is on AWS Redshift. Our machine learning platform is Google Cloud, based on Google Cloud's Vertex AI capability. We've solved some problems. I said, this sort of infrastructure around operationalizing ML models isn't that well solved today. We've solved some of the problems around sort of managing machine learning model features, and particularly the consistency between the data that you have available when you train a model and the data that's available when you're running the model, and the consistency of the definitions of them. And then downstream, how do you measure and monitor the outcome? So, a key component is having an experimentation capability, because I sort of view operationalizing any ML model or marketing campaign it really is an ongoing experiment. And so there we have some third-party experimentation capability that helps our website, but all of it plays down into a common testing, measurement, and management capability and reporting capability that we built internally that attaches to our downstream business metric. And that allows us to sort of combine these. Okay, well, what has the conversion impact been of this particular experience that we've been delivering? Combination perhaps of an email and a specific landing page, campaign-specific landing page, but then also has that translated into 2-month retention or 2-month average order value or something like that. So we're able to connect those immediate metrics with how that's played out downstream in terms of quality of the customer overall. So experimentation is a key part of our infrastructure today. Simon Data, CDP component for our sort of data-driven orchestration and our audience management and targeting. That's how we drive our marketing experiments today, both dynamically. Think about some of our sort of response to customer events, cart abandonment, churn risk signals. As those come up, we have those flowing dynamically into Simon, and then we sort of have our target audience-based experiments through our own channels that we drive through Simon, and then measure back into our experimentation platform capability. So those are really the key pieces of it today.
Yep. When I sort of look at best of breed sort of workflows, which I think you effectively described there, it's a few different competencies. The first starts with the core view of the customer, and really making sure that you can have that holistic view of how the customer is interacting across the website, support, which Bark has said, with the happy team is super strategic, and of course any other touch points. And then really just thinking about the feedback loop. So, are you able to operationalize the models and build the right data science capabilities? Are you able to operationalize and move those models into marketing campaigns? And then on the backside of this, are you able to measure what's going on? Are you able to do that in an experimentation context? Are you able to run an A/B test, a holdout test? And can you look at a longitudinal view of things in a way that really fits some of the goals of the business? And with a business like BarkBox, with the core subscription business as a primary driver of success for the for the broader enterprise, it's not just about a conversion rate; it's thinking about retention rates and thinking about engagement and all these leading indicators that show that you'll continue to subscribe. But there's real complexity there. So, Olly, we're sort of reaching the bottom of our time here. Final question for you. I know you're excited about this one. If you were to have this conversation again with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
when you told me you were going to ask me this question, Jason, I thought of a multitude of well-known figures around the industry. And then I actually came back to, I would probably tell myself some of these things 10 or 15 years ago, because, at that time, I sort of probably lived in this world of, well, solving that kernel data science problem is the only part of the mission. And having accumulated all of this experience about what it really takes to operationalize these capabilities in an enterprise and really affect customer experience and the underlying business metrics, right? I wish I'd had that wisdom before, because I sort of had to nut and bolt those things together along the way. And I would have loved it to be a shortcut. So I wish I could say it was, I would tell some celebrity or very, very prominent executive some of these wisdoms. I'd probably tell myself to give myself a much smoother ride over the last 50 years or so in this space.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. I don't think we've had anyone refer to their previous and former self. But look, I mean, I'd put myself in the same camp. I always joke it took me 5 years into my PhD to realize the value in data isn't in the algorithms, how you actually use the algorithms. And I think so often if there's one thing that I think so many of our listeners could maybe if I would hope they take away is ultimately machine learning is only as good as how it's used, and having machine learning is a means to an end. If the pipelines from the means to the end aren't connected, aren't operationalized, aren't analytical, aren't measured against the things that you care about, all you really have going for you is to say that you're using machine learning, not much else. Which in the market unfortunately happens more time than not. But in this broader macro environment, making sure that that you're really clear on where the value is more critical than ever. So thank you. So Olly, thank you for coming on our podcast today and sharing your wisdom with us. If anyone would like to learn more about BarkBox, maybe you can tell our listeners where they can go and how they can learn about the brand and just subscribe to the box.
Yeah, check us out. All of our product lines at bark.co. And if you're interested in subscription toys and treats for your dog, barkbox.com.
Great. And thank you, Olly. And thank you to everyone listening to this episode of the Data Unlocked podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Simon Data, please visit us on the web at simondata.com or email us at hello@simondata.com.